Yeah. Mm. Isha.
Ta til bruk globalt. Ok. Nå går det med videoen min. Husker. Dere ser en video. Oi, shanti. Hva det betyr? Det er tidlig for meg da. 5:46. Det er også et tidspunkt, kan man si. Kjølig. Hvorfor ligger den der? Hva er det som vil at jeg skal få den her? Er det noe? Skal jeg ta den? Kan jeg godt? Hvor er det? For det er ingenting å si. Alt universet tilpasset. Hva er det? Den samme intensjonen. Den som er usann intensjoner, den havner på en plass som reflekterer det. Den som er sann intensjoner, kommer på en plass som reflekterer det. Sånn det er. Shanti. Hei. Har vi brukt hele stemmen vår? Ja, vi har brukt hele stemmen vår. Kan man snakke fra en annen plass? Nei, det er bare en plass å snakke fra. Hei! Shanti. Shanti. Gjennom en storm jeg tok den lett. Jeg gikk gjennom en år. Når øyet må vi gjennom for å si. Gjennom alt som har sett for ny. Så nu er vi ny og skjær i dag også. Et nytt år. Og vi fortsetter å gå gjennom det vi også. I dag sitter jeg her og ser. Verden er alltid den ene. Verden er alltid enig på det høyeste. Verden er i materie av menneske. sånn som det når jeg er med på det samme som det livet selv er. Med på den samme sangen som synger alt som kan være. Livet er liv på alle plan. Hvor jeg trengs for å se det som er, i alt som er, alt som er, i det uendelige. Her er meg, her er deg, her er du nå. Du er deg om meg. Du er det du er det høyeste. Er du klar over det? Kan du være klar med det og klar for å være helt beyond. Alltid gjennom en grense. Langs den er du det som er ikke annet enn der ingenting er, foruten noen få som ser. Alt som er i det som er i alle plassene som er en plass. I det hele tatt. En plassering i det eneste. Som er en ring. Som er en kule. Som er allting. Som er alt som surrer rundt seg selv. I det evige. Som er i det uendelige. Det mildeste vi har å være. Og det er sannhetssang. Som sannheten står egentlig det er alt som er det vi gir. Tja. Tja. Klokken 05:55. Plus de photos. Photo. C'est la nôtre. Ja, zonder benen uit. Shit. treninga. Jeg har vært ute og sprunget i det. Mens jeg sover. Vi bytter på det. En uke der. Han er sløvbuss. Jeg er hyperklar. Han er whatever. Jeg er sløvbuss. Hyperklar. Men han er hyperklar, så blir han greit med seg. Så artig. Det er spennende utenfor det som er så før. Han vedder på at grunnen til at han var så sulten var han hadde ikke fått tak i noen. Ennå. Kanskje han har spist masse, så han blir så hyper på å spise at det hjelper ikke å spise masse. Nå må du komme hjem og roe seg for å spise. Han bare blir mer og mer sulten. Det er sånn der, ikke antimat, men det bare går rett inn i en uendelighet. Infinite void. Så var han kattemat, for det er egentlig så sulten. Infinite hunger. Hva er det med kattemat? Ja, dette er et spørsmål. Skal vi se hva Sen sier til det. Ei! Mundo. Kiyosaki. Stick of awakening. During the dawn for degree examinations for the martial arts, a master told us one day that 3 things were important: Shin, Vasa, Tai. The mind or spirit, technique, body. What is most important? In the martial arts, as in the game of Go, throughout knowledge of Vasa technique is useful. And it is certain that in a young person, the body is the fundamental element, whereas in an older man, technique and spirit predominate. In reality, Shin, spirit, it what makes matter first, is what matters first. Technique and body come afterward, are made from that. In other sports, especially in the West, physical strength is the most important factor. But this is not so in the martial arts. In judo, the body must be well formed. But that is less important than technique and the mind intuition needed to use it correctly. In a fight between the strong technique and a strong body, technique will prevail. In a fight between a strong mind and a strong technique, mind will prevail, because it will find the weak point. There is a famous story of the samurai who found himself at the end of a brawl, fighting with a common laborer. The samurai got his man in a skillful stranglehold and was about to kill him. The laborer was shouting when he suddenly felt that his fingers were touching his adversary's testicles. He gripped and squeezed with all his might, and in a few seconds the samurai had to let go. Training was not aimed only at developing the body. In present-day tournaments, of course, people are not fighting for life and death, but for points. So physical strength and technique are enough. Whereas in olden days, things were very different, because life was what was at stake. And then, ultimately, intuition decided the outcome. Adio. It would be that way today. Every fight should be fought as if life were at stake, even when you're fighting with wooden swords. Then the martial arts would find their rightful place again and become the practice of the way. Otherwise, they are only a game. In reality, physical strength of technique, and mind are all more or less equal. But it is always Shin, the spirit, that decides the fate of the battle. I will tell you the story of the samurai who came to see the legendary master Miyamoto Musashi and asked to learn the true way of the sword. The master agreed, having become his disciple. The samurai spent all his time as instructed by the master, carrying and chopping wood, fetching buckets of water from a distant spring. He did this every day for a month, 2 months, 1 year, 3 years. Today, any discipline would have run away after a week or even a few hours. But the samurai went on. In the process, he formed his body. At the end of 3 years, he had enough. However, and asked his master, "What kind of training are you giving me? I have not touched a sword since I got here. I spent all my time chopping wood and carrying water. When are you going to initiate me?" All right, the master replied. "Since you desire it, I shall now teach you the true technique." He ordered him to go to the dojo, and there, every day from morning to evening, the disciple had to walk around the outside edge of the tatami, step by step around the hall without ever missing the foot. That's exactly the kind of walking you learn in Kendo. One foot exactly ahead of the other, then glide. Yes, the master was teaching him to concentrate on walking, to concentrate on one action, to do it perfectly. Because the details of technique, the tricks and feints, are secondary to concentration. If you are concentrated enough, one gesture, just one, is enough. is enough. So the disciple walked around the edge of the tatami for a year. At the end of that time, he said to his master, "I'm a samurai. I have a long experience of swordmanship, and I have met other masters of kendo. No one ever taught me as you are doing. Now, please, teach me the true way of the sword." "Very well," said the master. "Follow me." He led him to far into the mountains, to a place where a tree trunk lay across a ravine, a dizzying, deep chasm. "There," said the master. "Walk over." The samurai had no idea what his master meant. When he glanced down, he recoiled and couldn't bring himself to cross. All of a sudden, they heard a tapping behind them. The sound of a blind man's stick. The blind man, paying no attention, walked past them and tapped his way firmly over the abyss. He sticked his stick in front of him. "Aha," thought the samurai. "I'm beginning to understand. If the blind man can walk across like that, I ought to be able to do it too." And his master said, "For 1 whole year you have walked around the edge of the tatami, which is much narrower than the tree trunk. So you must be able to cross." He understood and strode to the other side. His training was finished. For 3 years he had built up the strength of his body. For 1 year he had developed his power of concentration in one action, walking. And the last, facing death at the edge of the abyss, he received final training in spirit and mind. But why is spirit or mind the most important? Because at the end, it is what decides. In the Japanese martial arts of long ago, one motion meant death. And that was the reason for the great liberation and concentration in the movements preceding attack. 1 stroke, and it's over. 1 dead man, sometimes 2. If there were 2 strokes and both were as they should be, it all happened in a flash. And in that flash, the mind decides, technique and body follows. In all modern sports, there is a pause. But in the martial arts, there is no pause. If you wait ever so little, you're lost. Your opponent gets the advantage. The mind must be constantly concentrated on the whole situation, ready to act or react. That's why it is most important. Oh. How does one choose the technique of attack? There is no choosing. It happens unconsciously, automatically, naturally. There can be no thoughts. There can be no thought, because if there is a thought, there is a time of thought. That means a flaw. For the right movement to occur, there must be permanent, totally alert awareness of the entire situation. That awareness chooses the right stroke, technique and body, executed, and it's all over. Oh. In Kendo, for example, there is a tactic called Te Bana Basa. You must attack before your opponent does. Strike before he strikes. For that technique, intuition is certainly very important. It is always important, essential. If an opponent gave you a blow you were not expecting, then you have to have the intuition to parry it, the consciousness to get away, to save yourself, the consciousness that will trigger the right reaction of the body and technique. But if you have time to think, I must use this or that technique, you will be struck while you think. Intuition triggers body and technique. Body and consciousness unite. You think with the whole body. Your whole body itself is invested in the reaction. That's why it is so difficult to make categories about the order of importance of Shin, Vasa, Tai, mind, technique, body. Shin, Vasa, Tai, mind, technique, body. They have to be unified, not separated. It is the perfect union of the three that creates the right action, not their separation. Complete unity. In the Japanese martial arts, Kendo, the way of the sword, has always been regarded as the noblest of all because it necessitated the complete union of all three: consciousness, intuition, body, and technique. There are 12 million people in the world practicing Kendo. 6 million Judo, 5 million Karate, 1 million Aikido, 200,000 Kyoto, archery. In every one of the martial arts, the unity of mind, body, and technique is essential. Think first, then strike is not the right way. You must seize upon Suki, opportunity. Opportunity is most important, and thinking cannot create it. Only consciousness can seize the opportunity for action, the empty space in which one must act. The gap. The opportunity that fits the act. The occasion. 34. For an attack. The understanding of the weakness through intuition. And that's the most important point. One must take advantage of the instant when the opponent, breathing in, shows his weak point. Who is breathing in? The opponent or oneself? The opponent. You must yourself breathe out when you attack. In karate, a blow received while breathing in can be dangerous, not while breathing out. So you must seize the opportunity with the adversity is breathing in, because then he reveals his weak point, his empty space. Why? The opportunity always comes while the other person is breathing in, because the person becomes lighter, the body becomes lighter and less concentrated. The in-breath of the other person offers an opportunity in which your mind, body, must know how to grasp. To attack while the adversary is catching his breath, showing his weak point. The flaw in his defense is That is the key. Hey. Breathing in is one great tsuki, or opportunity, and too much tension or too little is another. In a tournament, it is impossible to maintain the same intensity of concentration indefinitely. At some point, the attention weavers and you show a fault, a tsuki, an opportunity, which the opponent must be able to seize. This question of opportunity arises in every contest, however, not just in the martial arts, in argument, business. You must not show your weak points, either in the martial arts or in everyday life. Life is a fight. You must remain concentrated and not reveal your defects. Through continuous training and self-control, gradually you discard them. The traditional Japanese education is based entirely on this form of vigilance. Never show your weak points, so that other people will not be able to take advantage of them. In a tournament, the sole object of play is to disclose the opponent's weak point. And the method is attentiveness, determination, concentration. And then, when the opportunity presents itself, you leap upon it without a thought. During a fencing, or wrestling match, and in the contest of everyday life as well. You must watch the other person's eyes. When your adversary's eyes move or are unclear, hesitate, doubt, waver, there's the tsuki. Opportunity, flow. In the critical moments of your lives, where we must not show our weak points, because if we do, we will make mistakes. We will stumble, fall, and be defeated. This form of vigilance cannot come from constantly bodily tension, for the body would soon wear out. It must come from the attentiveness of the mind, or hence the great importance of Shin, spirit. The body indicates the weak points, and the mind can rectify, channel, direct. Last year in Kyoto, I watched a contest between two kendo masters who were about 80 years old. They stood face to face, sword in hand, sword tip against sword tip, without moving. Absolutely without moving. For 5 minutes. And at the end of 5 minutes, the referee declared the match a tie. Kikiwake. Yes. When you move, you show your weak points. Where young men will have worn themselves out in fierce trust and unorganized rushing about, where more mature men would have called into play all the experience of their technique. Two old masters simply fought with their spirit, with and through their eyes. If one of them had moved, his consciousness would have moved too, and he would have shown a weakness. The first to weaken would have been utterly lost, because others would have answered one blow. You know the story of the three cats. There was a samurai who had a rat in his house and could not get rid of it. He acquired a superb cat, so stalwart and robust. But the rat was quicker and made a fool out of it. Then the samurai got another cat, more cunning and astute. The rat was on his guard, and he accept when the cat was asleep. And he did accept, and hate except when the cat was asleep. Then a Zen monk from a nearby temple lent the samurai his own cat. The most ordinary looking cat you could imagine, that spent all his time browsing and napping and paid no attention to anything around it. The samurai shrugged and said the cat was no good. But the monk insisted he kept it. So the cat stayed and slept, and soon the rat grew old again and began trotting back and forth right in front of the cat, which showed absolutely no interest in it. Then one day, with one swipe of its paw, caught the rat and pinned it down. Strength of body and technical skill are nothing without diligence of mind. Right consciousness is essential to right physical action. But what can one do to maintain the right kind of concentration? Tension is exhausting and one cannot stand still forever. It is your mind, your consciousness, that must not panic or calculate. Just adjust completely to whatever is happening. Concentrate all the time on your breathing. Breathing out, which should be slow and long, and reach as far down as possible into your abdomen, your heart, and never take your eyes off your opponent's eyes. That way you can follow his inner movements. In the sword fight we watched between Master Yuno and one of his disciples, younger man, was painting at the end of a 5 minutes, exhausted by his tension. Master Yuno was just there, concentrated and calm, deadly calm, as you say, absolutely vigilant, and at exactly the right moment, the tip of his sword found his disciple's throat, pushed him off the mat. One gesture was enough. Once he had found the weak point of his opponent's defense. So concentrate on your breathing out. It is very important. Make it as long and calm as possible, and that will help you to fight from growing tired or emotional. Make it as long and calm as possible. That will help you to keep from growing tired or emotional. When the samurai fought at night, they concentrated on their adversary's shadow. Of course, the shadow motion exactly reflected the motion of the body and mind. That didn't stop the samurai. On the contrary, from breathing powerfully down into the heart, you must and can learn this kind of basic concentration in practice contests as in real tournaments. It is not necessary to train especially for that. What counts is the force of your concentration. Bodily tension and technical skill must be channeled through the attentiveness and intuition of the mind. The mind becomes empty, without a flow. That is Zen. And that is also the true way of Buddha. Facing life or facing death, the consciousness must remain calm. You must decide and at the same time accept both your life and your death, not just endure them. Even if my body dies, my mind must be straight. That is the training of Zen and Buddha alike. The great master Miyamoto Musashi decided to quit fighting one day in order to solve the problems of how to die. And what he did was sit zazen. Most practice the martial arts many people practice the martial arts in Europe, in the United States and Japan, without really practicing the way of Buddha or the way of the Zen. And the general feeling is that the principles and philosophy of Zen have nothing to do with the practice of the martial arts as sports. People who do not want to follow the teachings of Zen, the true foundation of Bushido, do not have to do it so. They're simply using the martial arts as playthings. To them, they are sports like many others, like any others. But people who want to live their lives on a higher dimension do have to understand. Nobody can be compelled, and nobody can be criticized. The first lot are like children playing with toy cars, while the second drive real automobiles. I have nothing against sports. They train the body and develop stamina and endurance. But the spirit of competition and power that proceeds over them is not good. It reflects a distorted vision of life. The root of the martial arts is not there. The teachers are partially responsible for this state of affairs. They train the body and teach technique, but do nothing for consciousness. As a result, their pupils fight to win. Like children playing war games, there is no wisdom in this approach, and it is no use at all in the business of managing oneself. What good to them is their technique in everyday life? Sports are only amusement, and in the end, because the spirit of competition, they wear out the body. That is why the martial arts should strive to recapture the original dimension. In the spirit of Zen and Buddha, everyday life becomes the contest. There must be awareness at every moment. Getting up in the morning, working, eating, going to bed. That is the place for mastery of the self. Is champion is a mental illness? Of course. What a narrow vision of life. I don't mean that one ought never to become a champion. Why not? It is an experience like any other. But one must not make an obsession of it. In the martial arts, too, one must be Mushotoku, without any goal or desire for profit. Where do martial arts come from? The art of the sword, lance, bow, or simple fist fighting. They are almost as old as man itself, because he had always needed to defend himself from attack and to hunt in order to feed himself and his tribe. First, the weapon was discovered. Spear, stone hatchet, slingshot, bow. Then, gradually, by trial and error, the best possible technique was evolved for each arm. Fighting with their enemies, people learned which blows killed, which wounded, how to parry them, how to counter parry, and so forth. The weapons themselves were perfect. Techniques were systemized, where the weapons themselves were perfected. Techniques were systemized, and the whole became a part of the art of warfare and the hunt, both of which include the essential element: knowledge of climate and weather, ability to interpret signals in nature, sounds, tracks, imprints, smells, etc. Understanding of the environment and of the psychology of the adversary or game in hunting. Intuition of the right movement. A good warrior hunter must be able to melt into the landscape, become part of it, know it intimately, and respect it. But to return to the Eastern martial art, the technique of fighting without weapons first became important in the days when itinerant monks were often attacked and robbed, if not killed, by soldiers and brigands, because the monks' vows forbade the use of weapons. A form of weaponless fighting was initiated and developed in China in Bodhisattva's time, and later split into karate, judo, tai chi, etc. And by means of these, the monks could then defend themselves on any occasion. This was the source of the precise and efficient gesture of karate, the subtle judo holds that utilized the adversity's own strength, the slow, subtle, feline parries of tai chi, then enabled the monks to take advantage of natural means of defense, adapt, in every case, to the energy of the individual. In those days, the soft martial arts were not divided into categories as now, but probably consisted of a collection of movements, blows, feints, and tricks, passed on from one man to the next in the course of their wanderings, just as they also exchanged their potions and recipes, plans, special massages, etc., or their techniques of meditations. Remember that before the Buddha began to practice asana under his Bodhi tree, he received instruction from many yogis on his travels. They also shared the experiences that had taught them something, moral and practical at once, relevant to their lives. Jag får det. Vad blir för köra det? Just. Spy. Get it out. Hey, hey! Okay. Hey, oh. Oh. Shoot. Okay. They also shared experiences that had taught them something, moral and practical at once, relevant to their lives. The initiate monks carried all this knowledge from China to Japan, where, spreading out from the religion of Okinawa, it met with a spectacular success. Karate and Judo became more popular there, where Tai Chi remained specifically Chinese. Wushu. It is still practiced today in China, every day on the streets and in factories. I saw a film showing crowds of people performing identical gestures in a sort of fascinating slow-motion ballet. Tai Chi used to be only for women and children, old people and the weak. It is a very interesting practice because it teaches the right kind of breathing, as in Sazen, together with suppleness of the body and concentration of the mind. It has been called standing Zen, but when all is said and done, it's just a dance, a sort of gymnastic without the true spirit of Zen. Which is the noblest of the martial arts? Kendo, swordmanship, has always been held in highest regard, thought as of most noble, closest to the spirit of Zen. Why? Because the Japanese samurai and masters knew that before a person became worthy of killing another, he had first been able to kill himself. With their swords, they learned not only to cut their foes in two, but even more to cut their own consciousness in two. If they could not do that, they could not win a fight. How to die and how to live. Kendo, the way of the sword, asked that question again and again. And in that sense, it was close to the way, close to the spirit of Zen. Kyodo, archery, also contains a strong spiritual element. Harigel wrote very well about it in his book, Who Releases the Arrow? When is it released? When body and consciousness are one and perfectly detached, then the arrow flies freely to its target. The shooting stance is also important. It must be beautiful, harmonious, both inside and outside the body. In Japan, Nippon, the great Kyodo were masters. Masters were trained much as respect, with as much respect as the Roshinis, the great masters of Zen. Before the war, I used to attend the annual martial arts convention, where the best masters and their disciples assembled. My own master, who is the monk Kodo Sawaki, was quite influential in their circles, and through him I learned to understand what the contest really represented. It had nothing to do with the competition. It was a kind of very elevated philosophy. The art of living and dying. and the postures were perfect. When posture, she say, form and force, is perfect, the movement that follows is perfect as well. It's particularly easy to see in archery, which teaches the correct way to behave and be. A beautiful posture, an inner solitude, a free mind, energy, key, balanced between cosmos, being, and strength of body. Right breathing concentrated in the hara, and the consciousness attentive, clear. Draw the bow. Concentrate on the breathing. Aim exactly right. And let go. When do you let go? Virgil spent 6 years practicing before he understood, before he realized the beauty of the correct release of the arrow, which is a total act performed with a consciousness that is Ishiryu. Ishiryu. The pine's shadow is dark, exactly as the moonlight is bright. Kodo Sawaki used to say this. It refers to the Zanshin mind, the mind that stays pure but without attaching itself to anything, and remains vigilant, attentive to the present moment, and then to the moment that comes after it. Movement is guided by intuition. Those who practice Zazen can understand that easily, and all who have experience of both martial arts and Zazen derive great wisdom and effectiveness from the combination. Or Zazen. Living Zazen. Oj, oj. Aj. Shroud. Alanga in a line. All gain by no pain. Just meet where it is and it will be. Master Puglia, the 13th, has spoken this morning. Master Puglia. You are the one, the only one that are going to be your own. You are the one, the only one who are going to go alone. You are the one, the only one who are going to collect yourself. You are the one, the only one who are going to be your own.